How did the podcast start?
So the podcast started. The three of us all worked together in a tech business. Jason was my boss, and Andy would have been essentially my manager. He didn't have that title, but he was much higher up than I was. I got brought into the company because they were making video games. I got brought in to do music and sound effects for the games, and then quickly fantasy football. Well, they had already been running in the League of Record, and then I got uh, a supplemental team put in there, and they expanded from 10 to 12 teams. And it was so important. It was the most important thing at work. Was yeah, we got a business we got to run, but people cared about fantasy football, and there was some other people in the office who were also in the league. So it was the chatter, for the majority of free time. And we got to this point where we're always trying to elevate the league, of like what's the next step to make it more grandiose. And to, the draft is always live. People would have t-shirts made, have posters made. We eventually got to the point where we had another friend from the office put on a suit and he read all of our picks like it was a real NFL draft. People have theme songs going on. And then one year it became Andy and I decided, hey, a week during lunch, we're going to record a podcast that is just about our league, and we're going to talk about the trades that have happened. Did anyone make a stupid move? And we used it really as a platform of entertainment for Andy and I, because we had a run where the two of us met in the championship 3 years in a row, which I won 2 out of the 3. So and just going to put that out there. But so it was us dunking, making fun of the league. Which that's at the heart of it. That's a huge part of fantasy football is you play so that you can make fun of your friends, say, I know more about football than you. So we're doing that. Everyone in the league is really enjoying it, and we think, hey, what if we made a podcast? We'll do one once a week for the public. We'll gear it towards that. So we eventually spin it up. It's just Andy and I at the time. Nobody is listening. This thing has negative downloads at this point. And so that was the genesis of it. Eventually, that company, Facebook, we're making Facebook games, iOS games. Things change. The company starts to fold, and the three of us are trying to find what are we going to do for work. And in the meantime, while the two of them are getting their real estate license, I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to make a beard oil company. And we're like, hey, what if we do this on the side? And so, I mean, it was literally the side. It would be us recording shows at 10, 11 p.m., really grinding it out because you're trying to work a full-time job. You're trying to take care of 3 children, pay a mortgage, but you also have this little, it sounds like a crazy side dream, but what if it worked? What if you made a podcast about fantasy football, the thing you like talking about the most, and it worked and it turned into your job? Well, right place, right time. And the show eventually took off. So everyone, quit everything else you were doing and we focused on the podcast full time.
And so was that 10 years ago? Like when did you start focusing on the how many years in did you start focusing on the podcast full time?
Right away. Part of our strategy was we believe that there are fantasy football maniacs out there like us, where as soon as the Super Bowl ended, that's when we added Jason to the show and kind of re-spun up the brand. Because we do, there's like SiriusXM has a fantasy channel.
Yeah.
At least back then, I don't know if they still do it now, but back then, as soon as Super Bowl was over, now it's fantasy baseball. And we're like, ugh, nerds. We don't want to talk about fantasy baseball. Let's keep talking about football. The NFL has done such a great job of their schedule as the Super Bowl. You think football's done? No, it's not, because we go right into the scouting. You go right into the NFL Combine. You go right into NFL free agency. Then it's the draft, and then training camp and football starts all over again. So their calendar, they've done a very good job of staying relevant. But so we started, we relaunched the podcast right after the Super Bowl, and we could see by June that there was a hockey stick of growth for listenership, and it was we have to figure out how to make it work. We have to figure out how to make money from the show, but there is an audience here, and we at the time it was talking to our spouses, convincing them that we think this is a good idea for us to not work real jobs and go talk about football. You just got to, we promise it's going to work out. And we would essentially, we looked at the business of buying months of making sure that everyone could eat and pay their mortgage, and then go to the next month. How many months do we have right now? You're like, we got 2. Okay, let's figure out what we're going to do after that. We got to make sure that that check is coming in. So it was year 1 that we saw the listeners coming in and made the jump that we're not going to do anything. And we know that once August shows up, if you want to make a go of this, you have to go head to head with the big boys, and the big boys are going 5 shows a week. So that's what we're going to do.